Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making a super easy tuna casserole. Now this is probably the quickest, easiest casserole you're ever going to find for dinner. And except for 1 cup of cheddar cheese, everything came out of my pantry. So, you know, for those snow days when groceries are getting thin, this is a good one. You need 12 ounces of milk in this. Now, I've been snowed in. That's why I say for snow days, this is a good one. And my fresh milk is getting down to about this much, and I like that in my coffee, so I'm using the evaporated milk. You can use any milk though, and I'm not going to bother diluting this because there's no point saving half a can of evaporated milk. I'm just putting it in there like it is, but you could dilute it or, you know, double the batch with it. You need a can of condensed soup. And if you don't want to use condensed soup, you can just add a little cornstarch in here and thicken it with a little cornstarch. I've got 2 cans of tuna that I have drained. I'm using tuna in water. You can use oil. I have a can of peas and carrots. You can use just peas. You can use frozen, whatever you got. I'm just using a can. And I have a 1.5 cups of instant rice. A 1.5 cups of instant rice, a 1.5 cups of liquid. You know, that's how that works. So anyway, we're going to start by heating this up on the stove. And if you're in a huge hurry, all you have to do is heat this up on the stove. You don't have to put it in the oven. But since it's winter time, we're going to put it in the oven and kind of brown it a little bit. I'm going to add my tuna in here. And I'm going to add some seasoning to this, which again is entirely optional and entirely to taste. But y'all know me, I put a little onion powder in everything. And I'm going to put just a little bit of plain black pepper in it too. But that's up to you. Don't really need to add any salt because you got salt here, you got salt here, you got salt here, and you got salt there. I'm just going to add a little onion powder in with my tuna for flavor. I probably did a teaspoon or so, not too much, but you can add as much as you want. And I'm going to go ahead and add in a little black pepper because pepper makes everything better. So does butter, but we've got milk, not butter. Go ahead and dump your peas and your carrots in there, or your peas, whatever you're using. You could, if you had time, it'd probably take maybe 30 minutes in the oven. You could just mix this all up and dump it in a casserole dish and put it in the oven for maybe 30 minutes because the only thing that's not cooked is that instant rice, and once you get it hot and bubbly, the instant rice will cook. But go ahead and turn your oven on about 350 because like I said, we're going to put this in the oven and kind of toast it a little bit. I mean, it's winter right now. If it's summertime, you don't have to turn the oven on and heat the house up. And brown it up just a tad. All we're doing here is just adding everything in and heating it. Now I'm going to wait till it gets hot, and I'm going to put half of my cheese in it and half of my cheese on top of it. And if you've been snowed in for a real long time, you could use one of those rice side dishes maybe that had some cheese in it. Or maybe use one of the rice side dishes that has some kind of flavor in it and just add it in here. Kind of make your own tuna helper sort of thing. And I do have up a from scratch tuna casserole too that I did a long time ago, and it is really, really good. If you've got time and you want the healthier version without the canned soup and all that stuff, you can look that up, and I'll try to link it maybe in the description. I'll put a link to it if you want a healthier version. And I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, add about half my cheese in here. Don't want to get carried away because I want a little on top. Otherwise, there's no point putting it in the oven and browning it. Of course, it would brown even if all the cheese was mixed in it. So if you make a mistake and dump it all in there, don't worry about it. Or add more. What we're going to do here is we're going to heat it until it starts to boil, and then we're going to put the rest of our cheese on top of it, and we're going to put it in the oven. If you don't want to put it in the oven, you just heat it till it starts to boil. Put your cheese on top of it, put a lid on it, and let it sit for like 5 minutes until your rice is done, and then you're ready to eat. Either way though, it's going to take about the same time because we're not going to have it in the oven more than 10 minutes. It won't take long at all for it to brown once it starts to bubble. And it will literally be done and on the table in 20 minutes. If you've got some kind of rolls or something you can serve with it, That's all you need because you've got the vegetables in it, you've got the protein in it, you've got the starch in it, and it's a complete one-pot dinner. Okay, we're starting to get some bubbles now. Now you do want to stir this while you're bringing it to a boil because you've got all that milk and all that cheese in there, and you don't want it to stick to the bottom and burn while you're bringing it to a boil. If you're mixing it up and putting it in a casserole dish, or you're going to just heat it in a pot, and you can heat it in a pot, any kind of pot, and then dump it in a casserole dish at this point, you probably want to grease your casserole dish. If you're doing it in your iron skillet or another skillet, I recommend taking a spatula and going around the edge after you get it boiling like it is here. You can see the bubbles coming up in it, and I'm going to cut it off now. I don't want it to scorch. But take you a spatula and go around the edges of your skillet and clean off what's gotten up on the sides of the skillet, because that will burn and it will be very hard to get off of there. Now we're going to add the rest of our cheese. And if you don't want to put this in the oven, like I said, because it's summertime and it's hot, you don't have to. Just put a lid on it and let it sit here for 5 minutes, and that will make your instant rice tender. It does take 5 minutes, and that little bit of cheese that we put on the top there will be all melted, and you can eat it just like that because everything is cooked. But now what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the oven for maybe 10 to 15 minutes until this is kind of golden brown. Okay, after just about 10 minutes in the oven, our casserole is completely set, and it would have set in, 5 or 10 minutes, like I said, on the stove. If we just put a lid on it and let our instant rice sit there, it would set up. But it kind of rises up a little bit, and I don't know if you can see that or not, but it has a slight dome on it when you bake it. It's not going to get that if you just let it sit on top of the stove and finish up. It smells really good now. Those onions and that soup smell are kind of mixed together, and it's nice and golden brown, and you don't get that on top of the stove. But if it's summertime and you don't want to heat up the house, you don't have to put it in the oven. And it also, it's a couple minutes quicker if you don't put it in the oven. But literally like 5 minutes of stirring everything together here on the stove and getting it hot, 10, 12 minutes in the oven, and dinner is ready to go on the table. You can yell for everybody to come and eat, and it is super quick. Probably, like I said, the quickest, easiest dinner casserole you're going to find. Give this one a try, whether it's this winter and you got to have it quick to get homework done and all that stuff for extracurricular activities, or whether it's in the summer and you just need a quick meal. Before we go, I want to share Hebrews 13:5 with you. Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Don't be covetous. Don't be jealous of other people. Don't be talking about other people. That's way back in the top 10 that God told us not to do. But he made us a promise in this verse. He promised that he would never leave us nor forsake us, no matter what we're going through, even no matter how far we strayed. All we have to do is call on his name, and he will be there. And he will meet our needs. He's not going to leave us alone when we cry out to him. I want to thank you so very much for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. And if you haven't already, please click like and subscribe before you leave. Share our videos with your friends. And until next time, remember to put God first.